The diplomatic reception hall aboard the Concordance was designed to accommodate 17 different species simultaneously. Ambassador Jakara of the Vraxian Collective watched the human representative, Dr. Sarah Chen, with 4 of her 6 eyes, while the other 2 tracked the movements of the cubs. They shouldn't have been there at all. Jakara's offspring, 3 juvenile Vraxians barely past their first molt, had escaped their nursery pod again. At 4 cycles old, they were already showing the hunting instincts that had made the Vraxian species apex predators on 7 colonized worlds. Their obsidian carapaces gleamed under the soft lighting, mandibles clicking softly as they explored the space beneath the refreshment table with predatory curiosity. The other delegates had noticed. Of course they had. The Peltharian trade minister had retreated to the far corner of the hall, his prey species instinct screaming danger at the sight of juvenile carnivores. 2 of the Minos representatives had quietly excused themselves, their membranous wings trembling. Even Ambassador Thoran of the warrior caste Kroll had shifted his massive bulk away from the table, one hand resting on his ceremonial blade. Jakara felt a familiar burn of shame in her thorax. Her species' reputation preceded them. Efficient killers, cold strategists, creatures whose young trained for combat before they could speak in full sentences. No one trusted a Vraxian mother. No one believed they could be anything other than calculating and ruthless. She began moving toward the table to collect her cubs, already composing the apology she would need to make, already calculating the diplomatic damage this incident would cause to the trade negotiations that had taken 3 standard years to arrange. Then Dr. Chen moved. The human had been standing near the beverage dispensers, engaged in what appeared to be pleasant conversation with a Diluvian agricultural coordinator. Without breaking her sentence, without even looking down, Dr. Chen reached behind her and pulled something from her diplomatic case. A blanket. Jakara stopped walking. Dr. Chen knelt smoothly, still talking to the Diluvian about crop rotation cycles or some such thing, and draped the soft blue fabric over the cubs huddled beneath the table. The material was clearly from Earth. Jakara could see the primitive but charming woven pattern. The human's hands moved with practiced ease, tucking the edges gently around the 3 young Vraxians who had curled together in a pile. Their earlier predatory investigation giving way to drowsy contentment, the cubs chittered softly, a sound of comfort that Vraxian young only made when they felt completely safe. The smallest one, Jakara's daughter Kenneth, reached out with one bladed forelimb and grasped the edge of the blanket, pulling it closer. Dr. Chen stood up, smoothed her diplomatic robes, and continued her conversation as if nothing unusual had occurred. Jakara found herself unable to move. In 70 cycles of life, through wars and treaties, through the brutal political landscape of the collective, she had never witnessed such a thing. The human had seen her children, predators by any objective measure, dangerous even in their youth, and responded with tenderness, no calculation, no hesitation, no fear, just a blanket. Ambassador Jakara. Dr. Chen had turned toward her, a slight smile on her strange, flat face. I hope you don't mind. I noticed they seemed tired. My daughter used to do the same thing, find a quiet spot under furniture when the grown-ups were being boring. The human spoke as if Vraxian cubs and human offspring were equivalent, as if there were no difference between a species that could disembowel prey twice their size and whatever soft, vulnerable young Earth produced. Jakara found her vocal synthesizer struggling to process the appropriate response. You are not concerned. Dr. Chen's smile widened, showing her small, flat teeth, so unlike the mandibles of a proper predator, yet somehow the expression conveyed genuine warmth. Concerned? They're children, Ambassador. Tired children at a boring adult function. She glanced down at the blanket-covered pile. Though I have to say, your youngest has an excellent tactical instinct. That spot under the table has the best defensive sightlines in the room. It was said with such casual humor that it took Jakara a moment to process the words. The human had assessed her cub's positioning with a warrior's eye and found it praiseworthy. Not threatening, not dangerous, simply competent. On Earth, Dr. Chen continued, turning back to the broader reception, we have a saying. It takes a village to raise a child. I think that's true everywhere, don't you? Regardless of species. Shakara watched as Dr. Chen returned to her diplomatic rounds, greeting the Kroll ambassador with easy confidence, discussing mineral rights with the Peltharians who had recovered from their initial fear. The human moved through the reception with the same unconscious grace she had shown while covering the cubs, capable, alert, but fundamentally unafraid. Under the table, Kenneth had fallen asleep, her breathing slowed to the deep rhythm of true rest. Her brothers had curled around her protectively, but their mandibles were relaxed, their carapaces no longer held in the rigid tension of alertness. They felt safe. Because a human, a member of a species the collective had initially dismissed as weak, their world classified as barely industrial when first contact occurred, had seen Vraxian predator cubs and responded not with fear or political calculation, but with the simple kindness of offering warmth to sleeping children. Shakara approached the table slowly and knelt beside her offspring. The blanket was soft, much softer than the thermal pods used in Vraxian nurseries. She could smell something on the fabric, a scent both foreign and somehow comforting. Later, she would learn that humans often used plant extracts called lavender to soothe their young. "They will be fine there, Ambassador." Dr. Chen's voice came from behind her. "Let them sleep. We've all been through too many of these receptions to blame them for checking out early." Shakara turned to face the human. By every measure of collective protocol, she should thank Dr. Chen for her consideration, then remove her cubs to prevent further disruption. That was how a proper Vraxian diplomat would handle the situation. Efficiency above all. Instead, she heard herself say, Would you tell me about your daughter? The one who used to hide under furniture?" The smile that spread across Dr. Chen's face could only be described as radiant. "Would I? Let me get us some of that Diluvian honey tea. And I'll tell you about the time she fell asleep in a weapons locker during a base inspection." As they walked together toward the beverage station, Shakara glanced back once at her cubs, peaceful beneath an earth blanket in the middle of a galactic diplomatic function. Tomorrow she would need to explain to the collective why the human delegation had suddenly become such crucial allies in the trade negotiations. How Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth had managed to shift Vraxian support with a single gesture. But tonight, she would simply listen to another mother's stories and understand, perhaps for the first time, why the galaxy's younger races kept underestimating humanity. They looked at sleeping children and saw only children, not calculations, not future threats, not political complications, just small beings who needed a blanket and a safe place to rest. It was, Juskara reflected, the most dangerous and the most beautiful thing she had ever witnessed.